Going on vacation can be a ton of fun, but also pretty stressful at the same time. If you're flying for that vacation, those airports can really crank that stress up. Did you pack enough clothes? Is your shampoo bottle too big? And did you somehow leave an 8-year-old home alone? Jeff! These things and more can run through your head, and on top of all of that, you've got to make your flight on time. All of this can lead to a truly terrible experience, and some people leave 1-star reviews about these experiences online. And in this video, I'm going to go around to a few different airports and read some of those 1-star reviews and make some jokes and, question society. Quick shout out to Super Jeff Freak channel member Jen for this idea. If you want your idea done by me, leave it in the comments down below, subscribe to join the Jeff Freaks, and also leave a like to make me smile. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's go have some fun at some airports. Our first airport was actually suggested by 2 different Jeff Freaks. Kitty Has Fangs and Silly Internet Slug. Thank you for your support and the suggestion, and it is the Newark Liberty Airport, or EWR for short, for some reason. This airport was built in 1928, meaning it's almost a century old. That's a lot of time to make a lot of people pretty upset. So let's go read some 1-star reviews. Our first review for the Newark Nightmare comes from Hinata. This is easily one of the worst airport experiences I've ever had in the US or anywhere in the world. CPB randomly pulled me into secondary inspection, made me sit in a room for 5 minutes, didn't ask a single question, didn't check anything, then just waved me out. If this is considered security, it's nothing more than disorganization disguised as procedure. It felt pointless, unprofessional, and like they were simply trying to fill a quota. The airport itself is outdated, confusing, cramped, and incredibly poorly maintained. Most of the staff don't seem interested in helping anyone. The attitude ranges from indifferent to openly irritated. As United's main hub, the overall experience drops even further, from inefficiency to complete chaos. I've traveled through airports across Asia, Europe, and Latin America, and I have never seen a major international airport run this poorly. Newark is exhausting, disorganized, and completely not worth the headache. I will avoid EWR at all costs from now on, and I strongly suggest other travelers do the same. Now, that's one way to set the tone for this airport. That secondary inspection that was just 5 minutes of silence feels like airport purgatory. I'm glad Hinata made it out to the other side. Let's move on and see what happened to Chris. TSA threw/chucked a foreigner's bag onto the ground because he didn't speak English and couldn't follow their directions. The bathroom was hairy and used single-ply toilet paper. No sleep pods. 24-hour sensory and meditation rooms aren't 24 hours. Alarm testing with noise and strobe lights went on non-stop for over 3 hours. Updated. Worst airport I've been to, I'd rather be in a tiny no-name airport like Greensboro or Wichita Falls.
Wichita Falls is the greatest place I have ever been in my life.
I love any excuse to use a King of the Hill clip. Anyways, this place just keeps getting worse. Why would TSA Gronk spike somebody's bag if they didn't speak English? Like, don't they encounter that at least hourly working at TSA? The alarm testing and strobe lights going off for 3 hours just adds to this dumpster fire. Let's keep reading. Let's see how much fuel Christine's review adds to this dumpster fire. This airport is the armpit of aviation. Slow, inefficient, and ridiculous. Sat on the tarmac for 60 minutes coming in from Shin Martin, and now we are told we will be waiting 75 minutes on the tarmac before we even get to start to taxi. Why is this place always such a disaster? And did I mention how their train from one terminal to the next was also broken? So we had to take a bus. Please fix this place, and travelers, avoid it at all costs. Alright, I gotta be honest, I love how Christine said that this place is the armpit of aviation. I think I'm gonna start using that line more in my day-to-day life. Like you're traveling down the road and you see a kid's lemonade stand, you stop by and you go, "This lemonade stand is the armpit of juvenile sales." Maybe that doesn't hit as hard. Feel free to hit me with your best armpit of blank jokes in the comments and I'll read Edward's review. I was thrilled that my trip down to Newark Airport was easy. The airport was navigable. No guessing games with signage. I parked on the 3rd floor of the garage and walked right into Terminal C. So convenient. I was delighted when I booked my round-trip flight to Wilmington for only $312. I spent 4 days in Wilmington. Want to know how much parking was for 4 days? $360. More than my flight. I'm convinced I did something wrong and can't get to the bottom of this. Calling is impossible. Anyone experience this? Suggestions, please? When I first found this review and was reading it, I was like, is this a 1-star review? And then I got to how much the parking was. So you guys heard Edward. He needs our help. Why was parking more expensive than his flight? Did he do something wrong? Let me know what you think and let's go to the next review. Our next review comes from Jackie. To the employee who is giving my injured and elderly father a difficult and disgusting attitude and disposition while he was only 5 pounds overweight on one of his luggages, then saying he's never working Sundays again. You shouldn't have a job working there to begin with. I don't know how you're smacking your chewing gum in our faces, rolling your eyes, and giving him that type of demeanor for no reason. Absolutely no sense of professionalism or respect. Newark Airport, if you want to hire people that aren't capable of being trained to be kind and polite to others, that's a very sad mistake on your behalf. First of all, how and why was Jackie's dad injured? Key info missing there. Like, did he get injured at the airport, on the flight, pre-injured? I need to know. I also have to say, despite all the negative stuff about this employee and their attitude, I love how they exclaimed they weren't going to work Sundays ever again, as if this is some sort of Sunday-only problem. I really wish this interaction would have been recorded. Something says it would have been great. So what'd you guys think about the Newark Airport? Have you ever been there? Have you ever flown in or flown out? Let me know your experience and let's go to the next airport. Our next airport is very famous and very busy, and that's the Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas. I was at this airport in early 2024, and while I was there was this sweet old lady, and she asked me, "Sir, can you watch my walker while I go play the slot machine?" I said, "Yeah, no problem. I'm just gonna be sitting here." Unfortunately, I don't think she won because I didn't get any money. Anyways, let's go read some funny 1-star reviews. The first review for the Sin City Airport comes from Emma. I flew in/out July of this year and had the displeasure of encountering some of the most insanely rude TSA workers in my life. And the bar was already pretty low, frankly. Yes, I still think about this interaction months later because of how rude to grown men were to people for just existing in public. These are some of my favorite reviews, the ones that are left months after the interaction. I'd really hate to cross Emma in real life. Emma's grudges are longer than the walk to your hotel room after your car gets denied at the ATM because you gambled away all of your money and your kid's college fund. Anyways, let's move on and see what happened to Mrs. D. Got to the airport an hour ahead. Boarding pass said E8. No one was there. So I asked someone that worked there. She said E10. Cool. Just 2 spaces over. Went there, the worker said D17. Flight missed 30 minutes later. 9 a.m. flight turned into 11 p.m. flight. Not cool. Workers look at computers and tell you the wrong info. Plus Frontier is a hot mess. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like only showing up an hour early to a flight at this Vegas airport is sure a big gamble. But also, if the employees told her the right gate the first time around, Mrs. D probably would make her flight, so I don't want to blame her. Let's go to the next review. And that review comes courtesy of Sherry. I checked my suitcase at the kiosk outside the airport doors. I was flying to Cleveland on June 28th, 2025. When I reached my destination, items were missing from the side zipper pockets that were 2 pairs of sandals and 1 pair of slippers. All new. TSA did not search the suitcase since there was no paper notice. An employee of the airport stole the items before takeoff. There have been many reports of stolen items in employee lockers. They should use cameras on all personnel handling luggage. This is probably most people's biggest fear when it comes to flying outside of the airplane going kaboom. I was worried the last time I was flying that somebody was going to steal my PSP, because that's my precious PSP. Keep your hands off that, airline people. Our next review for the Vegas airport comes from Alexandra. My low rating is due to the poor handling and terrible customer service from American Airlines after my flight was delayed, causing me to miss my connection in Chicago. There was only one agent assisting all the affected passengers, and after a short while, she simply left claiming her shift was over, leaving everyone stranded. Her supervisor and the baggage staff were arrogant, dismissive, and completely unhelpful. Absolute zero customer orientation. We were left overnight in Las Vegas with no food, no hotel accommodation, and no transportation assistance. It was a disgraceful experience for an airline of this size, and I strongly recommend that American Airlines review their customer service practices at this airport. I love how the attendant left once their shift was over. I like to imagine them watching the clock and the second it hit like 6 p.m. just bailing out with their arms up in the air like, I'm off the clock, this is not my problem anymore, and going home and having a great night. Unlike Alexandra. Alright, let's move on and see what happened to Dave. Normally, I like this airport fine. This morning, one of the trains to gates broke down, and the staff redirected everyone to go stand in a mile-long line in a parking lot deck while they shuttled us in 3 mini buses at a time to Terminal 3. What a stupid, horrible backup plan for critical infrastructure. If busing people to another terminal is your plan, then you should have the capacity to move people on buses just as fast as the trains. This is ridiculous. I have no idea why they wouldn't have bigger buses without shrinking myself down and inserting myself into the person in charge's head and reading their thoughts. Instead, I'll just ask you guys, maybe someone knows, why don't they use bigger buses? Why do they use mini buses? Why don't they have a better backup plan? Give me your best ideas and let's go to the next airport. Our next airport is so famous, most people know it by 3 letters, LAX. Gonna give it to you. Sitting on nearly 3,500 acres of land, LAX isn't just massive, it's also massively busy. In 2024, it served roughly 76 million passengers. That puts it on an average of over 200,000 per day. With that many people, some are bound to have a terrible time and leave a review about it, so let's go read some of those reviews. The first review for LAX comes from Dr. T. I am writing this to formally express my dissatisfaction with the shuttle service at airport/location. On date, I waited 52 minutes for a shuttle, but no vehicle ever arrived. As a result, I was forced to walk from the last terminal to the taxi area while managing 4 pieces of luggage on my own. This experience was highly inconvenient and physically exhausting, especially considering that shuttle services are advertised as being readily available for passengers. Not only did it create unnecessary stress after a long flight, but it also reflected poorly on the reliability of your service. I respectfully request that you review this matter, ensure appropriate corrective measures. I have a question. Is this review AI, or did Dr. T just copy and paste something and forget to add their own details? Either way, I probably would have moved on to plan B after like 20 minutes of waiting for the shuttle. Oh, just Jeff sneaking in here real quick to give a shout out to the Super Jeff Freak channel members, Darth Jen, Steven, Jake, and Aurora's Aura. Thank you so much for the extra support. Alright, back to the video. We'll move on from the doctor's review and see what happened to Carlos. The worst airport I've ever been to. I had to connect here, and I was short on time. The pilot of my plane changed the gate and we lost time. Once I got off the gate, the room where it was indicated I had to board was closed. So I had to ask and they sent me to walk down a very long hallway with confusing signs to take the shuttle. Before taking it, a person who checked our boarding pass told us without an ounce of empathy, "You're not going to make it." In fact, we arrived at American Airlines Lounge, which seems improvised, and in fact, the flight was closed. I had to buy flights with another airline. I'm sorry, but the person who told Carlos that they weren't going to make it without an ounce of empathy is pretty hilarious to me. Sounds like that person doesn't have a good day unless they tell somebody else that their day is going to be ruined. Our next review comes from Jackson. Another horrible airport. I don't know what is up with American airports, but they all seem to suck. Japanese airport was way more high-tech. In LA, we had to recheck bags and go through TSA security again, even though we already went through on our previous flights. Redo the layout. So dumb. And on top of that, the cleaning crew didn't even let us get off the plane before they started trying to clean. What total crap. Having to recheck your bags and having to go through TSA again makes no sense at all on a connecting flight. And why would the cleaning crew come on the plane before everybody got off? That seems to slow down both sides, right? I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot, but what is going on here? Our next review for LAX comes from Maria. 1 star is being too nice. This is one of the worst airports I've ever experienced. Bathrooms were disgusting. The airport is an absolute maze, going up and down on multiple different floors just for a connecting flight. Food options suck, and I had to flag someone down just to buy a Red Bull after standing at the counter for 10 minutes. Went to a bar, got served a beer, and the bartender disappeared and sits in the corner on his phone. At least he had football playing on the TV and good music playing. I'd rather swim next time to my destination than come back here. I'm a little surprised there wasn't a self-checkout kiosk at this airport. I've never been to LAX, but a couple of the other airports I've been to had like a handful of these self-checkout little like bodega type things. You just go in, grab a couple of things, you go check yourself out and you leave. Also, say it isn't so, multiple floors at one of the largest airports in the world? I can't believe it. But what I do believe, because I am seeing it on my screen right now, is the next review comes from Ryan, in all caps. 6-hour flight was not enough time to prepare an open gate, and I'm sure I'll be stuck in traffic for an hour on the flip side. A pre-K student could have designed a better airport.
Boom. Roasted.
Ryan really scorched LAX with that line there. So do these reviews line up with your experience at LAX if you've ever been there? Let me know, and while you're doing that, let's go to the next airport. Our next airport is the largest major airport to where I live, so I've been there a few times, and that is the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Located in North Dakota, no, I'm just kidding, it's actually located in Minnesota in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, which can lead to some quirky things happening, especially in the winter time with those big snowfalls and those really cold and windy days. I'm sure that bad weather and probably a lot more will factor into those 1-star reviews. Let's go find out. Our first review for this airport comes from Astrofish, with 2 photos I'll show you at the end of the review. Clusterfuck. Gates are crammed with vendors, absolutely no room to stand or move around. Priority for MSP is to sell expensive food and drink and other junk over your comfort. Absolute fail. Like I said before, lucky for us, Astrofish snapped a couple of photos, even though they're probably some sort of fish flying through space. Anyways, you can see how cluttered and packed with people this area is. Honestly, it looks pretty normal to me, especially if that's a big flight departing. Our next review comes from Mick. When I picked up my luggage, it was very hard to wheel my suitcases across the carpet that was installed all around the area. Why on earth would they put carpet? Not only is it costing taxpayers extra money, but how on earth do you keep something like that cleaned properly? Disgustingly difficult on my old back, especially at the end of an 8.5-hour journey. Mick does raise a really good question there. Why did they install carpet? Quick Jeff lore drop. I once had a summer job as a teenager where I cleaned my local middle school, and for some reason that place also had carpet, and it was a literal pain in my back to clean that carpet. One of my duties was to go around with this can that was like liquid nitrogen, and I'd have to spray the gum and other stuff on the carpets and use this metal scraper and scrape it up before I could actually clean the carpets. And those were just middle school kids, not tens of thousands of travelers. Our next 1-star review for this airport comes from Kay. TSA were pulling so many bags aside to go through. We were all like, what on earth? I apparently had too many toiletries. I have never been treated so disrespectfully in my lifetime. Woman was extremely rude and combative. It's like she wanted to tick people off and was trying to pick a fight. She was treating people like criminals for having too much shampoo. Whoa. Unbelievable. Left some expensive face cream behind instead of leaving some cheap travel size shampoos because she wasn't willing to work with me at all in the situation. I'm guessing TSA pulled Kay's bag aside because of the size of the bottles in Kay's bag, not because they were trying to single her out or anything like that. They're not willing to work with you either because there's rules and regulations put in place for this kind of stuff. That's why whenever I travel, I quadruple check that I don't have anything wrong in my bag. Let's see if Andy had to leave behind any expensive face cream in his review. Security is a nightmare. They changed it so an entire security checkpoint, one of only 2, is for TSA pre-check only, and now only have one gate for general boarding. The line was through the concourse and into parking garage on a random Sunday morning at 6 a.m. This feels like a complete money grab. Leave yourself an extra hour or avoid flying out if you can. Surprise! Andy actually took a picture and left it in his review. The unfortunate part is you can't really see too much in this picture. It does look very busy for 6 a.m. on a Sunday, but judging by the sun, I'd say it's closer to 8 a.m. Let me know what you think the time is for Andy's review, and while you do that, let's move on and read what happened to Rick. Took an hour for some luggage to come off the carousel. Then the other half of the luggage came off a different one. Missed the shuttle to Rochester that I had 1 hour of wiggle room on. Might be good as a transfer hub, but awful if this is your destination. For whatever reason, Rick's review reminded me of like one of those games you'd play on those Flash websites back in the day. There'd be many different carousels of luggage and then bad luggage, and you're supposed to grab like a certain type of luggage. I don't know if it's a real game or not, but I can definitely imagine it being something. So what'd you guys think of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport? Would you guys fly out of it if you live nearby? Or swim to your next destination? Let me know what you would do, and let's go to the next airport. Our next airport is the Denver International Airport, one of the largest airports in America by volume of passengers and by size. The airport itself sits on 33,500 acres of land. That is a huge amount of space. This airport also serves over 70 million passengers a year, and there's also some wacky theories tied to it, but I don't want to get into those in this video. But what I do want to get into are those 1-star reviews, so let's go. Our first review for the Mile High Airport comes from Kim. The design is horrible and makes absolutely no sense without adequate signage. Every person I asked for assistance was extremely rude and acted like I was just some sort of horn in their side because I was asking for assistance. I will make sure to never have a connecting flight at this airport ever again. On top of it, all the airlines don't even give you a gate number until the last minute at this airport. I ended up having to find out from someone that you have to look on the Denver airport website to find your gate number. Wow, I really wish they would have mentioned that ahead of time. The correct saying is a thorn in the side, not a horn. Unless this airport has some free roam bulls running around. I definitely don't remember seeing any bulls when I was there. Anyways, let's move on and read what happened to Lori. Unfortunately, I live in Colorado and am forced to use this behemoth airport that has been under construction for renovation for 10 years and counting. It doesn't appear they are close to being finished. Parking is difficult to find and expensive, along with not being very convenient. The new and improved state-of-the-art security took over 30 minutes today, and the line took my breath away. Since the train has been stalling in the tunnels recently, I chose to walk to my terminal. Any other airport would have been preferable. Oh, would you look at that? We have a local. The train stalling in the tunnels is pure nightmare fuel, especially if you're in a rush traveling, like most people are. Our next review comes from Joshua. I live in the Denver area, so DIA is a familiar place. I find myself passing through or picking up friends here regularly. Sadly, I always dread it. DIA is one of the most dysfunctional, poorly managed airfields I've ever encountered, including many in developing countries with far less economic support than DIA receives. Security, baggage, transit, it's all a consistent disaster. So confusing, so understaffed, and so slow. Oh, here's a good idea. How about if we add to the debacle by plunging the place into an unending, overpriced, and inadequate construction program? The great city of Denver, and the airlines that have made DIA a hub, should demand so much more from its gateway to the world. Pew 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 pew! We have another local. Sounds like this airport is stuck in a constant state of construction, which I unfortunately did not see while I was there. I really feel like I missed out based on these last couple of reviews. Let's see what sort of issues BT had at this airport. The most poorly lit, poorly laid out, poorly signed airport I've ever been to. This was designed by an interior design dropout who had no concept of passenger UX or UI. Lines of sight interrupted all over, preventing a view of restaurants and shops. Dim, top-down pot lighting creating hot spots and pockets of deep shadows. Odd bathroom layouts and lighting. I'm here at night. Electronic ads that are in the way of walking routes. And a gray paint over everything. Even the signs at the gate are low res and hard to read. Unbelievably bad. Like just terrible, and I've been to many bad airports. This is an airport that breeds annoyance, confusion, dismay. Just awful. The way that BT describes this airport makes it sound like an experiment by them to truly test how much patience human beings have. Why though? Don't ask questions like that. Alright, let's get back to the reviews, and the next one comes from Mariah. This airport makes 0 sense. We arrived 3 hours ahead of time and still missed our flight. Checking bags took the longest at about 45 to 50 minutes, and security took about 30 to 45 minutes. Also, this place is huge, and walking alone from gate to gate will take another lifetime. Arrive a day early, and this place is all out of order and a total mess. Thumbs down. Not recommended. I would be in complete disbelief if I showed up 3 hours early for a flight and missed it. Why is this place so huge, without more helpful and convenient ways to navigate it? Have you ever been to this airport? How'd it go for you? Let me know, and let's go to the next one. Our next airport is another top 5 busiest airport, and one that I've been to a few times, and that is the Chicago O'Hare International Airport. This airport is located 17 miles northwest of downtown Chicago, and in all of my experience going to this airport, the traffic on the way in is the hardest part and the most annoying part. With 4 major terminals and 8 runways, this airport has a lot of potential for some angry passengers. So let's go read a few 1-star reviews left by some. Our first review for Chicago O'Hare comes from the letter N. The airport is big, but the hallways leading to various terminals and concourses are very narrow and crowded. The funny thing is they changed my gate 6 times, all far away from each other. So I had to squeeze through these tiny hallways all 6 times. Also be prepared that some of the security people were not kind at all. They constantly roll their eyes and sigh as if they just want to be done with the job already. Overall, it was such a bad experience. 6 times? They had their gate changed 6 times? Is that some sort of strategy to make people walk by more shops and advertisements or something? Like, what is going on? Well, we're off to a good start with this airport because I'm already confused. Anyways, let's move on and see what happened to Josh. How is this airport still functioning, and how are the people that review it 5 stars so delusional to the fact this airport is run terribly? It does nothing to make traveling from one gate to another easier. No tram, no automated walking lanes, makes catching a connecting flight a nightmare to deal with. It's also super crowded to the point it feels like they're taking on more customers than they can handle. This review is exactly why you should always check out the 1-star reviews after reading the 5-star reviews so you get a good balance of all the reviews so you really know what to expect. Speaking of 1-star reviews, our next review comes from Chris. I am so tired of major airports. To O'Hare and Philadelphia have zero accountability. I went to 9 different chairs trying to get power. 0 power. Then I go to the standing table. 0 power. Now I'm charging my laptop in the middle of a random hallway because it's the only outlet that works. This isn't one isolated time. This is almost every time I come to this airport. Lucky for us, Chris included a picture and you can see his stuff just chilling there in the middle of a hallway. 9 different outlets being broken is shockingly bad. Up next for O'Hare is Elke's review. Wow, I have never ever in my life left an airport review, but I feel I must. My incoming flight waited on tarmac for over 30 minutes before a terminal was available to unload passengers. It was getting hot and fuel smell was inside plane. My next flight was delayed. The bathroom smelled terrible, and I mean terrible. None of the phone charging ports on the chairs or underneath outlets anywhere worked except for on the few dispersed charging tables that did not have any chairs. And the cashier at Pronto ran the register accepting cash, then proceeded to turn around and start making sandwiches without changing her gloves. I have never experienced such an unpleasant, gross airport, and I have traveled all over the world since I was a little kid. I am absolutely astonished. But they do have some very beautiful and interesting art throughout the terminals. I know because I literally walked the entire airport to get to my next gate. Guess it was a good thing. My next flight was delayed after all. Oof. Well, I for one am very glad that Elke decided to leave this review. The craziest part of this review isn't about the bathroom smelling terrible, and I mean terrible. It's the fact that one of the places inside actually took cash. That just feels like it's getting more and more rare these days, especially at a place like an airport. Anyways, let's move on and see what happened to Sherry. I waited 40 minutes for a salad, and they weren't busy. Food was mediocre, service was horrible. It was extremely overpriced, even for an airport, and I would strongly advise avoiding. Apparently, if you buy alcohol, you get treated better because those folks didn't wait at all. They finally brought my food when I stood up to leave. I would have given 0 stars, but Google wouldn't let me. Did Sherry even fly out of this airport, or did she just go there for the salad? So what'd you guys think of the Chicago O'Hare Airport? Have you ever flown there before? Will you ever want to fly there again after hearing these reviews? Let me know. And with that, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. YouTube thinks you'll like this video. Leave a like and subscribe for more, because I've been Jeff, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.